Okay, I'm going to get started by welcoming you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see all of you guys here. Welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. What I'm going to be doing over the next 3 hours is introducing you to the teachings of the Buddha. I'm going to do this by helping you to understand what the teachings of the Buddha are, what the teachings of the Buddha are not. We're going to take a break, and then I'm going to share with you the very first teaching of the Buddha. It's called the Four Noble Truths. In 4 simple statements, you'll be able to understand what is the problem in the mind, the cause of the problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. In a way that you can independently verify, you'll be able to see why you keep experiencing things like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. The Buddha helps you to be able to see what's causing this, and then he teaches you how to actually eliminate it. Oftentimes people think it's the outside world that's causing these feelings, but it's what's going on within your own mind, and you can actually transform this where you get to the point where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. So we've got plenty of things to talk about as part of our course today, but what I'm going to do is start with meditation to be able to help you guys practice a little bit of the teachings of the Buddha. If you guys would like to join for meditation, the way that I do this is I start with some chanting to ease into the meditation. I have the chants over there on a laminated sheet on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself, and you're welcome to chant along if you'd like. If you get one of these chanting sheets, you're going to see the actual chants and be able to follow along. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help his students to remember the teachings. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. So this was a learning tool or as a learning device. Today, we use it as a way to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. But you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer. There's none of those kinds of things in the teachings of the Buddha. If you've been exposed to rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer, those aren't the teachings of the Buddha. He never taught any of those kinds of things. They used chanting during his lifetime to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, they would recite his teachings to be able to remember his teachings, to then be able to practice them. But today we use it as a way to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So if you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of this, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants himself, because he wouldn't have walked around and said, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me. This would be arrogance or pride if somebody did this. And by the time you get to enlightenment, you don't have ego any longer, thinking of yourself as being above people or below people. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other feelings to the peaceful and joyful mental state that is enlightenment, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, they were just helping you out of the kindness of their heart, you might actually have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. And that's why I think these actually came from his students. After the chanting, I'm going to be guiding you in the meditation, where I'm essentially going to be teaching you and instructing you how to meditate while we're actually meditating. Then there's going to be a period of time of quietness where we're all meditating. Everybody here at the temple and anybody who's joining online, we'll just all be meditating at the same time. Now, during this period of time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. You might hear a car go by, a dog barking, a bird chirping, someone here might cough or sneeze or something like this. This is all normal. If you're in meditation with a craving for permanent silence and you hear a sound, you will cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated. But if you understand that the world is full of impermanence and things are constantly changing, when you hear a sound, you just understand that that's normal, that sound's going to arise, it's going to change, and it's going to fade away. And you can rest and be at ease. So during this period of time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. But then we're going to come out of that with some more chanting, and that's where we'll start today's class, helping you guys to understand the teachings of the Buddha. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught, and you would learn these at different times as part of your journey to enlightenment. It's kind of like having a tool belt, and you use these different tools at different times. So we have various courses, classes, and retreats that'll help you to be able to understand these 4 positions and how to actually use them. But when people are first starting out, they're oftentimes starting in the seated position. So I'll give you guys some guidance on this that can help you, but just understand what I'm sharing with you are just recommendations or suggestions, because there isn't just one fixed way to actually sit. that would be permanence, and we don't live in that world. We live in an impermanent world. So you could be sitting on a floor, in a chair. Maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa in a wheelchair. You can sit however you like. If you're on the floor, you might notice that having some cushions under your rear will kind of help make the seat a little bit softer. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross leg position, you might just choose to do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, this can impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, allowing the circulation to flow. So you might consider doing this. Some people, when they're meditating, they like to put their hands and arms in different places. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it, but it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. And the same thing is true for anybody who's in a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can sit however you like. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly crossed at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed, so this is an option too. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if this is erect. With your sternum up and your shoulders back, it'll help keep your mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic, but if you are real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So by having the sternum up and the shoulders back, it helps keep the mind attentive and alert. The meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you'd like the mind to be attentive and alert during this period. So that's why having the sternum up and shoulders back will help you to do that. It'll also make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to do some chanting to ease into the meditation. You guys are welcome to join, and then I'll come back in to be able to help you afterwards. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakava Wat Tung Mahakavanang Aphivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sankho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anupero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusrang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาโพตังมหาเกวันหังอภิวาเตมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวตาตัมโมดามังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินับโมอะระหะสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมอะระหะสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสรังโอโตภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation, once again, welcome to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone here. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. I'm going to introduce you to the teachings of the Buddha, helping you guys understand what they are and what they are not. And then, like I mentioned, we're going to take a break and then we'll share the very first teaching of the Buddha. But in order to get started, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you guys what a Buddha is, because in order to be introduced to his teachings, you need to be able to understand what a Buddha is. An individual who we refer to as a Buddha, they've actually gotten to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. They then dedicate the rest of their life to sharing their independently discovered teachings with countless people, and countless people will get to enlightenment during that person's lifetime. Then they will preserve their teachings in such a way that countless more people will get to enlightenment after their death. So this is a very rare type of individual that exists in the world. And this type of individual, the last one that the world's currently aware of, existed over 2,500 years ago. So you can get to enlightenment, but you wouldn't be a Buddha at that point. Some people say that everybody is a Buddha, but the Buddha never actually taught that. So an actual Buddha meets these three primary criteria. Then there's other criteria as well. An individual who's a Buddha has a deep, profound memory. Even in the unenlightened state, they will have a deep memory. This is how they're actually able to be able to get to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides, is they accumulate wisdom over multiple lifetimes to the point where they apply that wisdom in their last lifetime to be able to train their mind to get to enlightenment. So, for example, you have a certain capacity in your mind. It's kind of like a hard drive, where an individual who's a Buddha, they don't have that. They have an unlimited capacity. So let's just say you have 500 gigabytes hard drive. Well, when you reach to capacity, you need to delete old files in order to store new files. That's why if you think back to your childhood, you just have spotty memories. You can kind of think about things that you've done here and there, but you don't have direct recall of everything you've been up to. Where in the last 5 or 10 years or so, you have a pretty good recall of what it is that you've been up to. That's because you are understanding the things that have happened in the recent times where you've had to delete old files in order to store new files. Where an individual who's a Buddha, they don't actually have that. They have an unlimited capacity. They can remember countless details about their current life and their past lives too, and they accumulate all that wisdom in their last life to be able to actually get to enlightenment. Also, they can quickly determine the condition of someone's mind by spending time with that person. They can actually observe the certain qualities that are in their mind. And then they can offer that person teachings to be able to help them to be able to train their mind to get to enlightenment. This is one of the things that makes them so effective as a teacher. They don't give unsolicited guidance to people. They only help people who are actually studying with them, but they can actually observe the quality of a person's mind through spending time with that person. And then lastly, I apologize, this is kind of running off. I need to adjust the projector there. A Buddha has a deep practice of their own teachings. They're a living, breathing, walking example of their teachings. So whatever they're teaching through their spoken words, they're also practicing these same things. So they're a living, breathing, walking example of their teachings because they understand their students are learning just as much through their spoken words as they are through their actions. So the way that they interact in the world is they're actually practicing their own teachings. So these are the criteria of what makes a Buddha, and we refer to this type of person as a fully, perfectly enlightened one. The reason why is because if you get to enlightenment and you weren't studying with a Buddha, for example, you might be just studying with any average teacher. If you're studying with those types of people, then there's a little bit of baggage in those people's minds that an enlightened being can get to enlightenment and everything that they've learned has led to their enlightenment. But there's certain things that they learned that didn't actually lead to their enlightenment, and they're still practicing those types of things. So maybe there's a certain meditation that their teacher taught them that didn't actually contribute to their enlightenment, but they're still practicing it because they don't have any frame of reference to be able to know whether it actually led to their enlightenment or not. So maybe 80-90% of the things that they've learned actually led to their enlightenment, where there's still this little extra baggage. Where an individual who gets to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides, they don't actually have that. If they try a certain meditation and it's improving the condition of their mind, they know that this is actually leading to enlightenment. But if it doesn't improve the condition of their mind, they will actually discard it and they will leave it aside. So by the time they get to enlightenment, what they know is the path to enlightenment, inside and out, backwards and forwards, right, left, up, down. And they spend the rest of their life illuminating that path to enlightenment for others to be able to understand how to get to enlightenment. So that's why we refer to this type of person as a fully, perfectly enlightened one, because they don't have this extra baggage in their mind. So this is a very rare type of individual in the world, like I mentioned. You can see this in the teachings of the Buddha where he talks about how rare it is. But every once in a while, you might run across somebody who will tell you that everybody is a Buddha, but this isn't actually true. A Buddha meets these very rare criteria. So this is what a Buddha is. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you what the teachings of the Buddha are, and then I'm going to share with you what the teachings of the Buddha are not. I'm going to actually pause and open up for questions because you might need some clarification at different times as I'm speaking. And when I stop to open up to questions, we have microphones here in the white bowl, and we have some back up here as well. If you could get a microphone, take it back to your seat and press the gray button. If you hold this up to your chin, we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then you can keep these with you because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share it with them. And then if you're not using it, if you could turn it off, that'll be helpful so we don't get feedback through the speakers. And then for those of you guys online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, and I'll be able to see that. Or you can raise your hand in Zoom electronically, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions you like that way. So what the teachings of the Buddha are is it's a path to attaining enlightenment in this life through purification of the mind. You're training the mind to get to the point where your mind's experiencing complete peace, calm, serenity, and contentedness with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you will no longer experience any discontent feelings. You will have eliminated all the sadness, anger, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. Oftentimes people think that it's the outside world that's causing these feelings, but it's actually what's going on within your own mind. And I'm going to help you see that by the end of today. This is why you can eliminate these feelings. It's not your parents that are making you frustrated. It's not your brothers and sisters that are irritating you. It's not your boss that is annoying you. It's actually what's going on in your own mind. So this is why you can actually get to the point where your mind's experiencing complete peace and joy, because you can transform your mind to no longer do this. When you transform your mind and you're purifying the mind, you'll get to a point where not only have you eliminated these discontent feelings, but you have a high degree of focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory, because your mind will be performing optimally at this point. When you have these certain pollutions that are in the mind, it's hindered from having focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. So when you train your mind and you transform it, it's really refining your mind to perform optimally. And you'll see that you'll have these qualities. You'll notice that you have deep wisdom about the world that other people don't actually have. And this is important for you at this time to make sure that you don't allow your conceit or your ego to come in, because you're going to need to ultimately get rid of your conceit and ego as well. But you'll have certain wisdom about the world that other people don't actually have. So you need to be able to remember not to be egotistical or arrogant or prideful, but instead to remain humble. You'll notice that you'll be polite, kind, friendly, and respectful in all situations. That in the unenlightened state, you'll find it difficult to do this. You'll have a certain amount of bitterness and harshness and hostility towards certain people. But by the time you get to enlightenment, you won't have this any longer. You can be polite, kind, friendly, respectful to everybody. You won't be causing harm to others. And you'll notice that your personal, professional relationships are really blossoming, because when you're being bitter and harsh and hostile to people, that's all coming back to you. You can see in the relationships where you're struggling and having difficulties that when you're bitter and harsh and hostile, that all just comes back to you. But by the time you eliminate that and you're practicing that for an extended period of time where you can be polite, kind, friendly, and respectful to all people, you'll notice that your relationships will really clear out, that you'll end up having harmonious relationships where they're blossoming and they're at ease, both personally and professionally. The way this is occurring is by what's down here. You guys can't see this. It says elimination of craving, anger, and ignorance. I'll explain to you guys what this is. This is a high-level way to refer to the pollutions in the mind that the Buddha discovered. He discovered these 10 individual pollutions. They're referred to as the 10 fetters. He refers to them as fetters because during his lifetime, if you were someone that they were trying to keep confined to a certain area, like a prisoner, they would attach a fetter around your ankle. This is a shackle and a chain and a ball, and they would keep you out in this field. And this is how they would keep you confined to that area. Where today we put prisoners in jail cells, and that's how we keep them confined in that certain area. Where during the lifetime of the Buddha, they would attach a fetter to your ankle. So when he discovers these 10 pollutions in the mind, he calls them fetters because it's keeping the mind trapped in this unenlightened state, continuing to experience anger, sadness, and frustration over and over and over and over and over again. So that's the deepest level of detail, the 10 fetters. But we bubble that up to something that we call the 3 poisons or the 3 unwholesome roots or the 3 fires. This is called craving, anger, and ignorance. What craving is where the mind is longing, yearning, chasing after the objects of its affection, looking for satisfaction externally. The mind thinks that the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some kind of lasting satisfaction. So the mind chases it and chases it and chases it and chases it. And if the mind gets what it wants, it experiences pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But if the mind doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. The mind is going up and down based on this craving, this desire, this longing, yearning. It's almost like an unquenchable thirst that the mind has, that it gets these pleasant feelings and these painful feelings, and then there's something called neither painful nor pleasant feelings, like shyness or uncomfortableness and things like this. So as long as there's craving in the mind can only be happy when it gets what it wants. But when it's not getting what it wants, it experiences some other discontent feeling, like painful feelings or neither painful nor pleasant feelings. And when that anger is arising, that frustration and irritation is arising, the mind firmly believes that it's coming from something external, and you'll tend to become unskillful. What you'll do is you'll tend to push people away. You might have pushed away friends or family out of your life. This is called aversion, where you try to push away a person or you try to push away a situation. And you can see that this didn't solve your problem, because if this person was the true cause of your problem, when you push them out of your life, you'd be peaceful and joyful from that point forward. But you can see that that's not the case. You continue to get irritated or annoyed or frustrated or other discontent feelings. The second thing you'll do when that anger is arising and you don't understand that it's being caused by your own craving within your own mind, that you'll tend to be bitter and harsh and hostile to people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another being, trying to fear it into doing things your way. It's like, put the trash in the trash can, lift the toilet seat up, or put the toilet seat down. The mind's going to be angry and frustrated. That's the second thing it'll do. Try to fear that person. And this is just damaging your relationships when you're doing this. Or the third thing you'll do is you'll tend to put your expectations on people, where you're trying to pressure them or force them to do things your way. The mind thinks that if I can just get my cravings fulfilled, everything will be perfect. So the mind's trying to pressure this person into doing things your way. And again, as long as you're doing this, you can't live harmoniously with all beings, because it's only a matter of time before you encounter someone who does things differently than you. And now you'll push them aside, you'll be bitter, harsh, and hostile to them, or you'll put your expectations on them, trying to pressure them to do things your way. So this anger is standing in your way of having harmonious relationships and being peaceful and joyful at all times. The reason why the mind has craving and anger is because of the third one. The third one is called ignorance. I use the term unknowing of true reality. This word ignorance is what people oftentimes translate with the Buddha's teaching, but I'm sure he didn't use that word because it's a derogatory word. It's a demeaning and diminishing way to refer to someone as ignorant. Instead, what he's talking about is the lack of wisdom, the confusion, the misunderstanding that the mind has, that the mind just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. The mind lacks wisdom. It doesn't understand that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. It will firmly believe that it's something externally. So while we call it craving, anger, and ignorance, it's actually because of ignorance that craving and anger continues in the mind. If it wasn't for this lack of wisdom, this unknowing of true reality, you would have already eliminated your craving. You would have already eliminated your anger. But because the mind has that lack of wisdom, it doesn't know how to do that. It doesn't know how to purify the mind. The mind needs this wisdom to learn how to purify the mind. So that's what the Buddha focuses you on, is how to purify your mind, and you need wisdom to be able to do that. What the Buddha is helping you to be able to cultivate wisdom about are the natural laws of existence, namely the natural law of karma. You might have heard this referred to as karma before. This is the Sanskrit language, where the original teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali language. So people who study those will tend to use the word karma. What this means is cause and effect, or action and result. It's the results of your decisions. That whenever you make decisions either wisely or unwisely, you will experience either wholesome karma or wholesome results, or unwholesome karma or unwholesome results. Oftentimes when you're experiencing things in life, maybe something that you find to be disagreeable, you might think that it's good luck or bad luck, or destiny or fate. Or you might think that it's God or some entity called the universe who's causing this unwholesome thing to occur. Or oftentimes what people do is they'll blame somebody else for the unwholesome things that they're experiencing. But in reality, it's your own decisions that are leading to any particular result that you're experiencing. So there's natural laws that are affecting you, whether you're aware of it or not. And if you don't understand these natural laws and you have a lack of wisdom of them, you will go out into the world and you will struggle and have difficulties living in a world that you don't understand. That's what the stress and the anxiety and the frustration is. It's the mind struggling to live in a world that it doesn't understand. You can think about this like when we were children, that we didn't understand the natural law of gravity. We fell down, we bumped our elbows, we hit our head, we broke open our knees and we started bleeding, and we broke our toys, and we cried and cried because we didn't understand the world that we lived in. But slowly but surely, we gained wisdom of this natural law of gravity. We never believed in this natural law. We could see the truth for ourselves. We can see that it exists, right? We're not believing that the natural law of gravity exists. We can see it. So you need to learn, reflect, and practice to be able to see these natural laws. And once we gained wisdom of the natural law of gravity, we started tying our shoes a bit tighter. We stopped being so giddy and bouncing around like a kid all the time. We started looking at the surface of the sidewalk as we were walking down the street. And now we don't have any issues with the natural law of gravity. We might say that we're fully awake to the natural law of gravity. We fully cultivated the needed wisdom to be able to navigate the world peacefully with this natural law. That's why we don't struggle with it any longer. If we fall down nowadays, we might even kind of start laughing. We might think it's funny. Whereas a child, we didn't understand, so we would cry and cry and cry, right? So there's other natural laws that are affecting you, whether you're aware of it or not. And the natural law of Gotama is the main natural law that the Buddha is helping you to be able to awaken to. So that now when you cultivate the wisdom of that natural law, you can navigate the world more peacefully. That's why we're able to climb ladders and ride bicycles and get on airplanes and fly all over the world, because we fully awoke. We fully cultivated wisdom about this natural law of gravity. But there's these other natural laws that you need to cultivate wisdom about. And that's what the Buddha is helping you to do. There's no belief in the teachings of the Buddha. You should never believe anything in his teachings. You need to learn, examine, and investigate his teachings. Then you reflect on them to verify whether they're true or they're false. And then you need to practice his teachings, integrating them into your life and training your mind. And I'm going to show you how to do that as we go forward in today's class. So the Buddha didn't explain how the world should be. Right? He didn't give you all these rules and commandments and saying, this is the way the world should be. And if everybody does things this way, it will become peaceful. Instead, he's explaining to you the way the world is. And by understanding the way the world is, now you can navigate the world more peacefully with that wisdom. So you're learning to grow and develop on this path to experience complete peace and joy by acquiring wisdom of the natural laws of existence. And this is what's helping you to eradicate the pollution in the mind, because the mind in the unenlightened state doesn't even have the wisdom to understand what these pollutions are, and that you need to eliminate them and how to eliminate them. That's what the Buddha figured out how to be able to do. The teachings of the Buddha are timeless. He spoke very clear, very concise, and very precise. You don't have to interpret his teachings. You don't have to figure out what it is that he's sharing. He's speaking to you very clear and very concise. These natural laws that he taught 2,500 years ago, it's the same natural laws today. The natural laws haven't changed. So that's why his teachings are timeless. You can see that the way he spoke is he spoke in a timeless way. He did teach about the cycle of rebirth and the 5 realms of existence, but these aren't things that you should ever believe in, and you can actually independently verify these. It's not something that you usually do when you first get started on the path to enlightenment, but there's the ability for you to independently verify this continuous cycle of rebirth, that you have more than one life, and that there's these 5 realms of hell, animal realm, afflicted spirits, the human realm, and the heavenly realm. In this book series that I share, 13 books, in volume 11, chapter 105, you'll find 17 different criteria of how to verify the cycle of rebirth. Right now, you might be believing that you only have one life, but you don't have any evidence that you only have one life. You're just believing it. But in that particular chapter, volume 11, chapter 105, you can see 17 different ways to independently verify this. But it's in chapter 105, volume 11 for a reason, because I encourage students to set aside the cycle of rebirth and the 5 realms of existence when they're first getting started, because what happened in the past is in the past. It doesn't matter. What may or may not happen in the future, it's in the future. It doesn't matter right now. Now you're in this human state. Your mind is experiencing discontentedness, and you would like to eliminate that. And that's what you would like to do, is focus on the core central teachings of the Buddha, because that's what's actually going to lead to the elimination of your discontentedness. But at some point, you will need to be able to learn this, because the Buddha taught it for a reason. I'll explain to you why he actually taught this. when you're training your mind and you're lifting this pollution out of your mind, there's the potential that you'll start having memories of your past lives. If you start having vivid memories of your past lives and you didn't understand that that's what it is, it could really shake you up. So for example, let's just say you started having vivid memories of being murdered, and they just keep reoccurring over and over and over again, day after day after day, week after week after week. You just kept having these vivid memories of being murdered. Well, you know it's not in this life because you're alive, right? This is a previous life, but this could actually shake you up if you didn't understand what that was, that you can just let that go and train your mind to no longer have that. Or these realms of existence of hell, animal realm, afflicted spirits, which are like ghosts, the human realm and the heavenly realm. Oftentimes people view these as being in some far distant land somewhere, but actually these beings are all in the same time and space as us. So hell beings, ghosts, heavenly beings, they're all in the same time and space as us. And some people can actually see these beings. And if you start lifting this pollution out of your mind and you start seeing these beings, because hell beings, afflicted spirits, and heavenly beings, they're formless beings. They don't have physical form. But some people can actually see them. And if you don't understand that's the way the world is, it could really shake you up when you start seeing these things. And some people can actually even hear them too, because they're in the same time and space as us. You can sometimes hear them speaking. And again, you could really be shaken up if you didn't understand that was the case. So just like if there was a person at a restaurant 2 tables over and they were talking really loud and you can ignore them and continue to have your conversation, you can do that with these beings too. If you hear these beings, you can train your mind to just ignore it. But with someone who doesn't understand that that's what's going on, they might think they're going crazy if they start hearing voices that other people don't hear. So the Buddha taught this for a reason, but it's not something you really need to know right up front. But just understand that he did teach these things. The Buddha also did teach about this being of God. Sometimes people think that the Buddha didn't teach this. You can hear some people that will share with you, the Buddha denied the existence of God, or the Buddha rejected God, or some people will tell you he never answered that question when he was asked about God. This isn't actually true. For someone who says that, they haven't penetrated into his teachings very deeply, because you can see very clearly that he does teach about this being. But he doesn't make this being the center of his teachings, because it's not this being that determines whether you get to enlightenment or not. He explains this being and he talks about this being from time to time, but he's not in the center of his teachings. It's you that's at the center of his teachings, because his teachings are this self-help program to help you learn to grow and develop into a better and better being. And it's your decisions that determine whether or not you get to enlightenment, not this being of God. So just like you can choose to have a relationship with your neighbor, and that's kind of nice because when you go on vacation, you could ask him to watch over your house, or if you need to borrow some salt or sugar, you can kind of borrow that from your neighbor. And that's wonderful to be able to have that person as part of your life. But you could also choose to not have a relationship with your neighbor, and you would get along just fine in the world, right? You don't have to have a relationship with your neighbor. So the same thing is true with this being, is you can learn how to have a relationship with this being in a healthy way, but you could choose not to as well and still get to enlightenment, because this being doesn't determine whether or not you get to enlightenment. The largest, most complete collection of the teachings of the Buddha are in something called the Pali Canon. This is 45 volumes of books that are about this thick. The average person who considers themselves to be Buddhist doesn't actually study these. And that's unfortunate, because they would never be able to get to enlightenment without actually studying the true teachings of the Buddha. So here in Thailand, this collection of teachings, it would cost about 3 months of your salary to be able to purchase this. So the average Thai person doesn't have a version of this. Even the average temple doesn't have a collection of the original teachings of the Buddha. They're just studying based on the oral tradition of people passing things down from person to person to person to person. And this is why the teachings of the Buddha are so largely misunderstood in the world, because people have either inadvertently changed his teachings or they've overtly changed his teachings. But what you would like to do is get back to the original source teachings so you can see what did he teach and what he didn't teach. But these 45 volumes of books, it's very costly. So what we've done is we've consolidated this into 13 books, and then we make it available to you for free. You can download it from our website. You can take it and go print it if you like. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can order it on Amazon. And this way you can get access to his original teachings and see what did he teach and what he didn't teach. So we call this the Words of the Buddha, the Path to Enlightenment, revealing the hidden, because these teachings have been kind of inadvertently hidden for a long time because it's so expensive to print them out. I suggest people to start with the very first book. It's titled Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. This is the best place to get started to understand the path to enlightenment. And like I said, you can get it here. You can download it for free. You can get access to this. And then lastly, before I open up the questions about what the teachings of the Buddha are, is the Buddha's teachings are to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. That's what he's helping you to do, is learning how to do this inner work, this inner growth, this inner development, to be able to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. But what's hurting you is inside your own mind. It's not the outside world. People oftentimes perceive it as the outside world, that if they see a war, then they feel painful feelings and they think that that's what's causing it. Or if they see a child in poverty, they might experience painful feelings. And now they think that that's what's causing their painful feelings. But that's not actually what's causing their painful feelings. If that was the case, nobody would ever be able to get to enlightenment. So the Buddhist teachings is helping you to do this inner work, this inner growth, this inner development, so you can heal from what hurt you, so that you never need to hurt ever again. But you need to know what is hurting you, and that's what I'm going to do by the time we get to the end of today's class, helping you to see the very first teaching of the Buddha so you can see what's actually causing these feelings. So do you guys have any questions on what the teachings of the Buddha are? Anything you guys would like to ask? Yes, sir. If you could get microphone. Yeah, we have plenty around.
Thank you. And from the first part of the teaching, I think you said like there are some negative feelings, for example, anxiety and anger, something like that. You know, that's something that makes us in a bad state. But like in the actual world, I think, is it also because we developed the mechanism, you know, being angry at something to show that, you know, for example, we should get away from this person. So there's a mechanism of, you know, how our feelings help us to navigate the bad things, right? So, but if we ignore them, then we are going to still get hurt again. It's because those, for example, bad people, they actually do exist. And we ignore the feelings, we can't even.
I understand that this is how your mind currently thinks, that the feelings of anger are somehow helping you. But it's not helping you, because when your mind is angry, it's angry, as you'll see when we get to the Four Noble Truths, because your mind is craving permanence. You're wanting people to do things a certain way. The mind has this idea that everybody should do things this way, and this is the right way. And when they do things this way, you're happy. But when they don't do things your way, then you get angry or frustrated. This is the mind craving permanence while it's living in an impermanent world. Not everyone's going to do things exactly the same way, but the mind wants that in the unenlightened state. And it's getting angry because it's craving for everyone to do it this way. That anger is shaking up your mind, and now you become unskillful and you damage your relationships. If there's a certain person that you think that you should not be around, you can make a wise decision based in discernment to choose to no longer be with that person. But you don't need your anger to be able to determine that. The anger is just helping you to be able to see in your own mind you're having craving, desire, attachment, where you're craving for things to be a certain way. But you can just understand through wise decision making that it would be unwise for me to continue to spend time with this person. But by choosing to leave away from that person, it's not going to solve your anger. It's not going to solve your frustration by choosing to leave away from that person. That's what the mind's aversion is doing, where you're pushing people away, thinking that that's going to solve your anger and frustration, but it's not. You need to be able to do what you'll see in the Four Noble Truths, which is eliminate the craving for permanence. As long as you keep craving for people to do things a certain way, you can only be happy when they do it that way. And the mind's ego thinks that my way is the right way and everybody else's way is the wrong way, where in reality, there's multiple wise ways to do things in the world. So it's important that you don't label people in your mind as being good or bad. As soon as you do that, that's your conceit, that's your ego thinking my way is the right way. And if they don't do it my way, they are bad, right? And you would like to get away from this and just realize that that's just a different way. There's a certain way that I do things, but then there's a different way that these people are doing things. And I don't have to label that as good or bad, right or wrong. It's just a different way. And now you can experience more peace and more joy because you're not craving for everyone to do it your way. But you need to see this in the Four Noble Truths. And when I walk you through that, you'll see it more clearly. But this anger is just shaking up your mind and making it difficult for you to make wise decisions and have harmonious relationships with the people around you. So you're not ignoring your feelings by the time you get to enlightenment. You're not ignoring your feelings. You've actually eliminated the causes and conditions that are producing them. It's physically impossible for an enlightened being to experience anger or frustration or any of these other discontent feelings. So you're not ignoring those feelings. You're actually have eliminated the causes and conditions that produce them, and they no longer exist. They don't arise. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Would you mind turning that off? That way we won't get feedback through the speakers. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to help you to understand what the teachings of the Buddha are not. This is going to help you to understand what the teachings of the Buddha are. This is one of the ways that I teach. I'll explain to you what something is, and then I'll explain to you what something is not. So the teachings of the Buddha are not a collection of beliefs, doctrine, concepts, opinions, or views that will produce a pleasant afterlife if you believe in them and an unpleasant afterlife if you do not believe in them. In fact, the teachings of the Buddha aren't about an afterlife at all. It's about getting to peace and joy now in this life. And there is no belief in his teachings. It's not opinions or views that he's sharing. They're independent truths that you can verify through your own independent verification. So this isn't what the teachings of the Buddha are. They're not a collection of beliefs or opinions and views. Also, depending on how you view religion, I would say that the teachings of the Buddha are not a religion, even though there's many people who think of it that way. If you think of religion as one person at the top who's telling everybody else what they should or shouldn't be doing, where there's rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship, and there's rules and commandments that everybody must follow, that doesn't include the teachings of the Buddha. The teachings of the Buddha are not a religion based on this definition, because there isn't one person at the top of Buddhism telling everybody else what to do. There also are no rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and things like this. As soon as you see those things, that's not the teachings of the Buddha. He never taught those kinds of things. And you might be exposed to those kinds of things thinking that those are the teachings of the Buddha, but it's not his actual teachings. And he didn't teach based on rules and commandments. He's helping you to be able to understand these natural laws and cultivate the wisdom about it. So depending on how you view religion, you might actually not consider the teachings of the Buddha a religion. I actually just got back from the USA last week, where I was teaching at many different places, and I was actually teaching at a university. It's called Southern Methodist University, and they have various religious degrees there in addition to other things. And I was asked to come into these various classes to be able to teach about Buddhism. And I actually asked them, I said, how do your professors define religion? They said a population of people who have similar beliefs. And I was like, oh, in that case, the teachings of the Buddha definitely are not a religion, because there's no belief in his teachings whatsoever, right? So oftentimes people are surprised to hear this, but his teachings don't contain any of those kinds of things. They're truths that you can independently verify. Also, the teachings of the Buddha are not punishments and rewards. If you've been taught that way, that's not what the teachings of the Buddha are. They're also not anything mystical or magical. It's not superstition or auspicious. He says very clearly in his teachings, and you can see the more you study them, that there isn't anything mystical or magical or superstitious or auspicious about his teachings. Also, his teachings are not something to attempt to convince other people or attempt to force other people to do. Sometimes when you learn things like this, people will send you out into the world to try to convince other people to do something. That's not what this path is. This path is for you to learn, grow, and develop on this path. You are an independent practitioner looking to cultivate wisdom. A teacher is kind of like a tour guide where we're pointing out for you the things that you need to learn and understand, but it's you as an independent practitioner that's looking to cultivate wisdom. You're not a follower or a devotee or anything like that. You're an independent practitioner. A teacher is like a tour guide. We're just sharing resources with you and helping you to see what it is that you need to learn on this path. But it's not about going out and convincing other people to do something. This is a path for you of personal growth and development. If other people are interested in learning, sure, they're welcome to come, but that's not the objective for you to go out and convince other people to come learn the teachings. When you're becoming more and more peaceful, more and more joyful, your friends and family are going to see that, and they're going to ask you, what are you doing? How did you do that? Right? If you saw somebody in the corner eating a big piece of chocolate cake with a smile on their face, you'd be like, where'd you get that chocolate cake? I'd like to get a piece of that too, right? Well, if you see somebody who who used to be angry and frustrated and have all kinds of difficulties in life, now they're smiling, they're cheerful, they're glad, they're bright, they're radiant, they're uplifted more and more and more, you're going to be like, hey, where'd you get that peacefulness from? Where'd you get that joy from? Well, it's the teachings of the Buddha. Well, where'd you get that? Oh, it's right here. So what you'll notice is people will start asking you about the things that you're learning, where you don't have to push them onto people. Also, if you spend time on social media, you might see these little short, catchy phrases that have a certain phrase, and then somebody will slap the name, the Buddha, on there. They will credit the Buddha for this particular phrase, but it's something typically that's been spoken in the last 100 or 200 years. It's actually not from the Buddha at all. So when you're seeing things, you can understand that this isn't the way the Buddha taught. He didn't teach these short little catchy phrases. His teachings are very deep and very profound. So if you see little short catchy phrases, 99.9% of the time, I've actually researched a lot of these, they're not actually from the Buddha at all. So he doesn't have short little catchy phrases. He has these very deep, meaningful teachings that will help you to understand the natural laws around you. Then lastly, things that the teachings of the Buddha are not, is that it's not teachings that are stuck in a cultural past that degrades or denigrates any group of people. Sometimes when we're talking about teachings from 2,500 years ago, people say, oh, surely the Buddha degraded women, right? He probably looked down on women and talked bad about them. No, he didn't. He actually taught people how to be respectful, polite, and kind, for husbands to treat their wives very polite and respectful, and how for wives to treat their husbands very polite and respectful. Well, surely the Buddha must have degraded people who have same gender relationships, right? No, he never did that kind of stuff. So he understood that all people are equal and there's different types of people in the world. Not everybody's going to do things exactly the same way. So he was teaching everybody how to be loving and kind and warm and gentle, polite and respectful to each other. And training your mind is what's actually going to produce that. So his teachings aren't stuck in a cultural past. In fact, his teachings have nothing to do with culture whatsoever. His teachings are breaking through culture so that you can actually see what are the natural laws. Because with culture, it's not necessarily based in the natural laws. One culture can think in one particular way, and one population, one culture can think in a different way. And now when they get together, they can have conflicts and difficulties. But if you're practicing the natural laws, which are universal, you'll be able to go into any culture and practice the natural laws, what the Buddha taught you, and you'll be at ease. You'll be completely peaceful and joyful. So his teachings aren't stuck in a cultural past that degrades or denigrates or judges any particular group of people. So do you guys have any questions on what the teachings of the Buddha are not? Yeah. Yeah, just press that one and you'll see the button, the lights come on.
Because when I go around Chiang Mai, there are a lot of...
You're welcome to sit down, by the way. He stood up, very respectful. You're welcome to relax.
Am I okay? Because when I go around Chiang Mai, there are a lot of massage places with Buddha statues. So is Thai massage a Buddhist practice or a cultural thing or marketing?
Thai massage is a cultural practice. It's part of the Thai culture. It's something that they've developed within their culture, and they use it for health and healing. They will connect it to Buddhism through the doctor of the Buddha. This is an individual who treated the doctor during his lifetime. They say that he's the one who created Thai massage, but there's no evidence that he actually created Thai massage. He could have, but we don't actually have the evidence to see that that's the case. But Thai people will typically connect everything and anything they can back to the Buddha because it gives it more credibility. So you'll see this in other parts of the world too, not just in Thailand. But Thai massage is a cultural practice. It's a healing art. It's a modality to be able to heal the body, where the Buddha's teachings are all about focusing on the mind and training the mind. Because no matter what you do with the body, if you're not training the mind, the problems in the body are just going to reoccur over and over and over again, because the mind is like the CPU of the computer. And if the CPU of the computer isn't working and functioning well, the monitor, the keyboard, the mouse, all of these things don't work well. So if you went and fixed the mouse or the keyboard, okay, that's fine. But if you don't fix the CPU, the computer is not going to function well. So this human being is the same way. So Thai massage is addressing the body, but the Buddhist teachings are addressing the mind, and it's important to make sure you're addressing the mind, not just the body. But there's things that Thai massage can do with the body that'll fix it so that now you can experience more health and more improvement.
So it's not a Buddhist practice.
The Thai people would probably tell you that it is, but it's part of Thai culture. It's more of Thai culture, where it didn't come from the Buddha. The Buddha never taught any body modality. And that doesn't mean that the body isn't important. It's just that he focused on the CPU, right? And he's teaching you how to train your mind. And now, whether it's yoga, Tai Chi, martial arts, any number of things, Qigong, there's so many things out there that we can do to address the body. You'll figure those out on your own and figure out what works best for this body. But if your mind isn't functioning well, you'll have difficulties in life. So that's why the Buddha focused on the mind. And then all these body modalities, you'll figure out what works best for you, whether it's acupuncture or yoga or massage or any of these other things. Those things didn't come from the Buddha. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. I don't see any questions online here. So what I normally do here is I take a little break to give you guys a chance to stretch your legs, talk with each other, get to know each other. And then when we come back, what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you the very first teaching of the Buddha, the Four Noble Truths. This is where you can have a real breakthrough in 4 simple statements. You'll be able to understand the problem in your mind, the cause of that problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward in a way that you can independently verify and see what's causing these feelings so that then you can actually eliminate them. So since it's 2:15, let's take a 20-minute break and come back together at 2:35. And that's where I'll start with this particular teaching. So enjoy your break, and we'll see you in 20 minutes. Okay. Hey, I'm going to continue forward to help you guys to understand the Four Noble Truths, establishing right view. This is where you can actually have a breakthrough to understanding what's causing these feelings in your mind so that then you can actually eliminate them. This is the place where the Buddha actually used to start every single one of his students. Nowadays, people tend to start with meditation, but that's not where the Buddha would start. The Buddha would start with right view, because until you understand what's causing these feelings, how could you ever eliminate them? So why even teach meditation if you don't understand what's causing these feelings? Because meditation is the solution. You need to first understand what the problem is. So that's what the Four Noble Truths is going to help you to understand, is what is the problem in the mind, the cause of it, the elimination of it, and the path forward. So this is part of what we refer to as the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is the core central teaching of the Buddha, and everything plugs into this in one way or another. In terms of getting to enlightenment, you would need to know this inside and out, backwards and forwards, up, down, left, right. And I'm actually going to be teaching that coming up in a course this week, Monday through Friday. I'm going to be teaching from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's called the Foundation and the Path to Enlightenment course. And this is part of that particular course and many other courses that I teach too, where I'm going to be teaching this using the original words of the Buddha. So you guys are welcome to come to that course if you'd like. It's Monday through Friday from 9 to 3. Just like everything, it's always available at no cost. I'm going to be teaching this on Tuesday morning as part of that course. But it starts with this right view. Right view is the foundation that helps you to be able to build everything else on top of that the Buddha actually taught you. So I'm going to teach you guys what this is in 4 simple statements. But in order to understand the Four Noble Truths, I need to first teach you the 3 universal truths. These are building blocks to help you understand the Four Noble Truths. Now remember, everything in the teachings of the Buddha, it's based on you cultivating wisdom. There's no belief here. So I'm going to teach you these things so that you can learn them intellectually, but then I'm going to show you how to reflect on them to verify if it's true or false. And then I'm going to teach you how to practice it, integrating it into your day-to-day life so that then you can experience the results. And remember, the Buddha is teaching you the way the world is. He's not teaching you the way the world should be. So this first building block of the universal truth of impermanence, he's explaining to you the way the world is. And the way the world is that it's impermanent. And it's important to be able to understand this by the time we get to the Four Noble Truths, that everything in the world around you is constantly changing. It's called conditioned objects. A conditioned object will arise, it will change, and then it will fade away. Anything that you can see, hear, smell, taste, anything that comes in contact with the body, or any thoughts or ideas that go through the mind, these are all impermanent, meaning they're constantly changing. It's called a conditioned object. It arises, it changes, and then it fades away. There are things in the world called unconditioned objects. An unconditioned object does not arise, it doesn't change, and it doesn't fade away. It is permanent. Enlightenment is that way. Once you attain enlightenment, it's a permanent mental state. You can never again experience anger, sadness, and frustration ever and ever again. It just won't happen. And the natural laws that the Buddha taught, those are actually unconditioned as well. They don't change. That's why his teachings are timeless. Now, people's memories and the books and things like that, people have changed those things, but the natural laws themselves, they don't actually change. They are unconditioned. But everything else in the world, anything you can see, hear, smell, taste, anything that comes in contact with the body, or any thoughts or ideas that go through the mind, this is all impermanent. Okay, so this is a little bit of the intellectual learning on the universal truth of impermanence, helping you to see that things are constantly changing. But you don't believe that. Don't believe anything that I say. Don't believe anything I put in books. Don't believe anybody about any of these things. You need to be able to see it for yourself. So now what you need to do is you need to take what I just shared and move it into reflection, where you can look around the world and try to independently verify whether it's true or it's false. And I encourage you to start with things that you're already familiar with, like say this human body. You can ask yourself, is this body permanent, meaning it's been exactly the same your entire life and it never changes? Or is this body impermanent, meaning it's constantly changing? So what would you say? Is the body permanent or impermanent? It's impermanent, right? Ever since the egg and the sperm came together, this body has been constantly changing. We get taller, we get shorter, We get bigger, we get smaller, right? We get wrinkles and pimples and moles. We get gray hair. We start losing our hair. Our teeth grow in and then they fall out and then they grow in again. And then we get cavities, right? This is constant change with the physical body. What about your relationships? If your relationships are permanent, you've had exactly the same people in your life your entire life. If your relationships are impermanent, you've had people coming and going in and out of your life. So what would you say? Are your relationships permanent or impermanent? They're impermanent, right? People are coming and going in and out of your life all the time. What about your bank account? Is your bank account permanent or impermanent? Your bank account is permanent? No, it's not. Yeah, that's what you said. You hope it is, but it's not. It's going up and down and up and down, right? It's constantly changing. Some people's goes up, up, up. That's change. Some people's goes down, 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 down. That's change too, right? Your bank account's constantly changing. What about the weather? Is the weather permanent or impermanent? It's impermanent, constantly changing, right? We could go on and on and on here. And if that's what you need to do, do that. Go out into the world and look around. When you're walking down the street and you see a crack in the sidewalk, that's impermanence. You can see we started this class out with a certain number of people. We've had someone join us. This is change. This is impermanence, right? Things are constantly changing. You look at the green leaves in the tree and the brown leaves on the ground. That's change. That's impermanence. You can look at the wood planks on the floor of the temple. Some of them are longer or shorter. Some of them are one color or different color, or one texture or different texture. This is constant change, right? Everything around you is constantly changing. So if you need to go out into the world in order to look around and verify this for yourself, that's what you need to do in order to be able to get to wisdom, so that you know that this is true. This is a universal truth, that conditioned objects are constantly changing, and the material world around you is all full of impermanence. This is a building block that's going to help you understand the Four Noble Truths when we get to it. The second universal truth is called discontentedness. Now, if you studied the teachings of the Buddha in other places, you might have heard this referred to as suffering. I don't use this word because it doesn't accurately reflect what the Buddha was teaching here. So I'm going to explain to you what the Buddha was teaching, and then I'll circle back and explain to you why I don't use the word suffering. So in the original source teachings in the Pali language, the word dukkha is being used. This translates to discontent, discontented, or discontentedness. What the Buddha is explaining to you is the unenlightened mind, in that the unenlightened mind experiences three feelings: pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and neither painful nor pleasant feelings. These are called conditioned feelings, that based on some condition, your mind is then going to experience a feeling. So like, say it gets sunny outside, it's really sunny, and you wake up and you see that it's sunny. You might get happy or excited or elated or thrill or euphoria. That's a conditioned feeling, that there needs to be some condition met, and then you experience this feeling of happiness. Maybe your boss walks into your office and says, "Man, you're doing a great job. I'm going to give you $100,000 a year more in your salary." And you get excited about that. That's a conditioned feeling, right? Based on the condition that you're getting more money, you now experience happiness. But then there's conditional painful feelings like sadness, anger, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety. These are very painful to experience. These are also conditioned feelings that based on some condition, you're now going to experience that feeling. Then there's neither painful nor pleasant feelings. I put boredom and loneliness here, but some people say that's very painful for them. So you could put that in the painful category if you like. But shyness is a good example of this. It's not painful. It's not pleasant. It's neither painful nor pleasant. Or let's just say you're on public transportation and somebody you don't know comes in and sits really, really close to you and your body's touching their body. You might be uncomfortable or dissatisfied in that situation. It's not painful. It's not pleasant. It's neither painful nor pleasant. The mind is uncomfortable or dissatisfied. That's what this third one is. Okay, so these are the three feelings that the unenlightened mind experiences: pleasant, painful, neither painful nor pleasant. And these are based on a condition. This is the reason why you haven't been able to get to permanent peace and permanent joy, because your mind keeps experiencing conditioned feelings. So for example, the unenlightened being, they'll wake up in the morning and see it's sunny outside, and they'll get so happy and so excited that it's sunny. Yay, I'm going to go hiking today. And they might think, oh, I'm going to call my friends. We're going to go on that hiking trail. It's going to be so fun. And they get so excited. But then you go take a shower and you come out and it's raining. And now you're frustrated, you're angry, right? Because you based your happiness on the condition of the sun, that means the sun is not permanent. And when your sun goes away, your feeling of happiness is not permanent, right? So you're basing your feelings on some impermanent condition. And that's why you haven't been able to get to permanent happiness. So what the Buddha is teaching you to do is to get beyond this, where you can have unconditioned happiness, unconditioned joy, where there doesn't need to be any condition met in order for you to experience happiness and joy. So an enlightened being, when they wake up in the morning, they're already happy. Before they even saw it was sunny outside, they're already happy. And now they see it's sunny outside. It's like, sweet, I'm going to go hiking today. I'm going to call my friends. This is going to be a good time. We haven't been on this trail for a long time. I've been interested to go on this trail. So now they go take a shower and they come out and it's raining. And it's like, it's raining. Well, I guess I can't go hiking. Maybe I'll stay home and read a book. Or maybe I'll go to the mall, or maybe I'll invite my friends over and we can have dinner, right? They can maintain their happiness because their happiness wasn't based on the sun, right? So that's what you're looking to do, is get beyond the conditioned feelings, where you can now have unconditioned mental states where your mind is always happy and always joyful. There doesn't need to be any condition met in order for that to occur. So this is called discontent, discontented, or discontentedness, where the mind is shaken up. It's unsteady, it's uncalm. Now you can independently verify this to be true, right? Because you know that your mind is unenlightened, and you can look at this and you can say, does this explain what you experience? Do you experience pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and neither painful nor pleasant? Are there any feelings that you currently experience that doesn't fit into one of these three categories? And if there is, we can talk about it when we get to the question period. Now, as you guys heard me share, I don't use the word suffering. The reason why is because the word suffering explains these painful feelings really well. The anger, the sadness, the frustration, and all these other feelings, you might say you're suffering when you're experiencing that. But if your boss walks into your office and tells you that you got a $100,000 a year raise and you get really excited, would you say you were suffering in that situation? Or if that person you don't know comes and sits next to you on public transportation and your body's touching their body, would you say you were suffering in that situation? Probably not. So if you use the word suffering, you're only understanding 33% of what the Buddha is teaching here. You're not fully understanding the full range of emotions and feelings that the unenlightened mind experiences, because you need to be able to see that the conditioned pleasant feelings are just as much a part of the problem as the painful ones. That if you allow your mind to get so happy and so excited when you get that brand new job, that means 3 years later when the company goes out of business and you don't have a job anymore, you'll be sad and frustrated and angry. Right? So the Buddha is teaching you how to get beyond these conditioned feelings. And you need to be able to see the conditioned pleasant feelings are just as much a part of the problem as the painful ones. But the word suffering doesn't help you to be able to see that. You're not eliminating suffering. You're eliminating discontentedness, where the mind is shaken up and unsteady and uncalm. And as a result, sure, you'll eliminate suffering, but that's not what the Buddha is teaching you here. He's teaching you to be able to see that there's a problem with these conditioned pleasant feelings too. It's not just the painful ones. So if you were missing 66% of a teacher's teachings, how could you ever get to the goal that he's actually teaching you? So that's why I don't use that word. This word discontentedness brings your mind to the full understanding of what the Buddha is talking about here. Then there's the universal truth of non-self. I'll explain to you guys what this is, and then I'm going to help you to be able to independently verify it. This is actually a solution to one of the pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind. Remember those 10 fetters, these 10 individual pollutions that are in the mind? This is the solution to one of those. But let me explain to you what the pollution is, then I'll help you to understand what this is, this universal truth of non-self. In these 10 fetters, these 10 pollutions, the very first one is called personal existence view. This is where the mind clings to this body and or your mind, thinking that this is who you are. The mind has confusion or misunderstanding. It clings to your self-image or your self-identity, wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way, and you can only be happy if people are perceiving you the way you want to be perceived. But when you're not being perceived that way, your mind is having some other feeling. So for example, if you've ever been in a social situation and you spilt something on your clothing and you were embarrassed by that, that's your personal existence view. That you're clinging to this body, wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. And you can only be happy if you're being perceived the way you want to be perceived. Now, when your clothes are clean, you're being perceived the way you want to be perceived, so you're happy. But as soon as you spill something on your clothing, that's not the way you want to be perceived, and now you're embarrassed. Or say you've ever been in front of a mirror and you saw a pimple or a wrinkle or a mole, or you saw that you have gray hair coming in, or you notice that you start losing your hair. You might have been shaken up by this. This is your personal existence view, clinging to this body, wanting to be perceived by other people in a certain way. Or maybe you stood in front of your closet and you thought about, who am I going to see today? And how do I want to look? And you put on a set of clothes and you looked in the mirror and you're like, no, that's not it. And you put on another set and you looked in the mirror, you're like, no, that's not it. And you put on a third set and you're like, all right, now I feel comfortable to go outside. You could only feel comfortable going outside when you looked exactly the way you would like to look. If you're like me, when I was a kid, I used to get out gel and mousse and I would run it through my hair and I'd try to get every little hair in exactly the right spot before I would go to school. Sometimes I did this for so long I would miss the school bus on the way to school, right? Maybe you experienced some of these kinds of things. This is the mind clinging to the body, wanting others to perceive you in a certain way. And you can only feel comfortable if you're being perceived that way. That's part of what personal existence view is. Then there's the self-identity. The self-identity is your culture, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, your nationality, your job or occupation. You might be clinging to any number of these things as who you think you are as a person. Like, I am Chinese. I am American. I am Filipino. I am Canadian. I am Irish. I'm a Brit. I'm an Aussie. I am. I am a police officer. I'm a boyfriend. I'm a girlfriend. I'm a husband. I'm a wife. Any of this I am. This is your mind trying to cling to something as your identity of who you think you are as a person. But now you'll experience difficulties and struggles when your identity is not intact. So for example, let's just say you're in a relationship with a boyfriend or girlfriend. As long as you guys are together as a husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend, you might identify as who you are as a person. But when you guys break up, you don't identify with I am single. And this is very uncomfortable for you. And you might have felt like the way to solve that is to hurry up and get right back into another relationship, where that's not actually what solves it. It's your personal existence view clinging to this identity as who you think you are as a person. Or let's just say you did a job or occupation, like I am a police officer, and you identified with this as who you are as a person. And as long as you're doing that job, you feel great. But maybe 10 years, 15 years into your career, maybe you get injured and you can't do that job anymore. Or maybe you get laid off or fired. Or maybe you retire and you're not doing that anymore. And now you're driving a taxi. And now you feel disgruntled because I am a police officer. But now you're not doing that job anymore. And you don't feel whole. You don't feel complete. This is because of your personal existence view, clinging to this idea of who you think you are as a person. Again, it can be your culture, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, your nationality, your job or occupation, any number of things that your mind can cling to as who you think you are as a person. This is your personal existence view. But what the Buddha is teaching you is there is no self. Those things are not you. That's not who you are. This body is not you. This mind is not you. But the mind's going to cling to it, thinking that this is who you are. And you can only be comfortable when it's intact. So now you'll have difficulties and struggles in your day-to-day life. Sometimes people have this so bad, they will go to their family in their home country and they will say, Mom and Dad, I don't know who I am anymore. I need to go find myself. I need to go find my true self, right? And now they might come to a place like Thailand in order to find themselves. Well, they're not going to find themselves here. They might find new hobbies, new activities, new jobs, new friends, people like this. And they might go home to their home country like, Mom and Dad, I feel so great. I found myself. I know who I am again. But now 2 or 3 years later, when all that stuff changes, they're right back in the same problem. They don't know who they are anymore because all that stuff has changed. So as long as you try to cling to any particular thing as who you are as a person, when it changes, your mind will experience difficulties and struggles. So the Buddha teaches you that there is no self. That's what the universal truth of non-self is helping you to see. And then there's certain tools and techniques helping you to understand how to accomplish this, where you can do what's called realizing non-self, where you can realize that this body is not you and this mind is not you. It's like stripping this away so that your mind no longer clings to it and forms feelings based on it. But the problem is that all through our life, we've been accumulating this, thinking that these things are who we are. In fact, our countries have a flag, they have a national anthem, they have sports teams. We've been told that we are this thing, and now we should think a certain way, and we should function a certain way based on that's who we are. And now we might invest into that country because I am American, right? And now when you're at lunch or you're at dinner and at a restaurant 2 tables over, someone says, all Americans are lovely and kind and warm and gentle. I've never heard this before, but maybe this is something that someone might say, right? And now you identify with being American and you're like, wow, they're talking about me, right? And now you feel so happy. But then 2 tables over, somebody says something degrading or disparaging about your nationality. And now you get angry or frustrated because you think they're talking about you. But you can strip this all away where you understand that there is no self. And this might be that person's opinions and views, but you don't have to form feelings based on that. But as long as you have personal existence view in your mind, you will form feelings about that because you think that they're talking about you. So the Buddha teaches you how to strip this away. Today, I'm just introducing you to this so you can understand it, but I teach in other programs how to actually eliminate this from the mind. So you need to understand this universal truth of non-self, that there is no self, even though the mind's going to cling to these things, thinking that this is who you are. So now let me show you how to independently verify this. Sometimes people understand what I'm talking about here when I first describe it. Sometimes it's very hard for them because you've spent so much time accumulating this as part of your life. So if you don't understand it, it's okay. There's plenty of other times for you to be able to learn this. But let me show you how to independently verify that there is no self, even at this early stage. Think about yourself when you were a child, when you were a teenager, early adulthood, and now. Think about your character and your personality. Has it been exactly the same through all those 4 stages of your life? Or the way that you think about yourself, has it been constantly changing? What would you say? It's been changing, right? You haven't looked at yourself in the same way. Here's another way. Let's just say your arm is amputated and you only have 1 hand and 1 arm. Are you less of a person? You only have 1 hand and 1 arm. You've lost part of this body. Are you less of a person? You say no? What about the rest of you guys? Are you less of a person? No? That's usually what people say. No, I'm not less of a person. That's where you can see intellectually, you understand that this body is not you. But in the heat of the moment, when somebody says, wow, you look so beautiful. You look so handsome. That shirt really brings out the colors of your eyes. You're like, they're talking about me. Wow. But then it's only a matter of time before someone says, where did you get that haircut? Are you going outside looking like that? Right? And now you're frustrated or angry, right? So intellectually sitting here talking today, you can understand that this body isn't you because you would have answered that question differently. If you have less body, that means there's less you. But you didn't say that. You said, no, I'm not less of a person. So you can see intellectually that this body is not you. But the confusion of personal existence view, in the heat of the moment, your mind will get angry or frustrated when you're hearing certain things about this body. Here's a third way. Point to yourself. Where are you? Okay, Keisha's pointing here. That's a common place that people point. Sometimes people point here or here, right? If you're pointing here, you need to see what you're pointing to. You're pointing to a shirt. And ask yourself, is that who you are? That shirt you're wearing. If we took off your shirt and you held it up and you pointed to it, is that who you are? That shirt that you've got? That's not you, right? Okay, so we throw that away. Where are you? And someone might point again. Well, what you've got there is you've got skin, right? Is that skin you? Is that who you are? If we peeled off your skin and held it up and pointed to it, is that who you are? That skin? That's not you. So let's throw that away. Where are you? And someone might point again, right? We've got ribs, we've got muscle tissue, we've got organs and fluid. None of these bits and pieces and parts are you. But the mind keeps clinging to this, thinking that this is who you are as a person, right? So you need to get to the point where you realize non-self. And that takes time because you've been accumulating this idea of a self for a really long time, right? So there is a body, there is a mind, and it's come together for this existence. And we call that a person. But as soon as your mind identifies with any of this stuff as who you are, you can't be completely peaceful and joyful because your mind's going to want to be perceived by others in a certain way. And that's not going to happen permanently. It's just not going to happen. So these are the three universal truths. They are building blocks to help you understand the next piece that I'm going to teach you. But I'd like to pause here and see if you guys have any questions on these before we go on. Anything you guys would like to ask? Yeah, question? I think this microphone might still be on, actually. Maybe when you're done, you can turn it off. Yeah, it's still on.
I'm a little confused about the no self.
Why is there no self?
You just said is actually we no body, no self.
Mm-hmm.
But I think our brain, our personality is our self.
That's what your mind's currently thinking because you have personal existence view. You're wanting to cling to this. So if somebody says, wow, your brain functions so well, you are so smart, you'll get so happy and excited. But what if somebody says the opposite of that? What if somebody says, your brain's not working very well today? Like, what's going on with you? Now you'll be frustrated or angry, right? So that's what the mind's doing with its personal existence view. It's clinging to this, thinking that that's who you are. And now you can only be happy if people are perceiving you the way you want to be perceived. So you need to be able to peer through this and train your mind to let that go, understanding that there is a brain, since you used that example, there is a brain, but that doesn't define who you are as a person. Sometimes people even do this with certain decisions that they made in the past. Like someone might have been taught that I am an alcoholic or I am an addict. No, that's not true. This being used to use drugs and alcohol in the past, used to make the choice to use drugs and alcohol in the past, but that doesn't define who you are today as a person. But that's what the mind's going to do, is it's going to cling to this stuff as who you think you are. And you need to be able to get to the point where you see through that. And that isn't going to happen today, right? But you need to be able to at least understand what the Buddha is teaching you here, is that he's teaching you that this isn't you. It's not who you are. And as you train your mind to think that way, now you'll be more and more peaceful because you can go out into the world with your hair looking like this or any other way, and you can still be peaceful and joyful. Or you can wear these clothes or any other clothes and be peaceful and joyful. But you can't do that as long as you have personal existence view. So if you spill something on your clothing, right? You need to be able to feel comfortable. When I was going to the USA on this trip, I went to Taiwan first, and I ate this soup that I always eat when I get to the Taiwan airport, and I dropped something in the soup and it splashed all over my clothing and all this brown sauce all over my clothing. And I walked through the airport. I was on the airplane. I went through the US airport, through immigration and customs, and I had this brown sauce all over my clothing. Didn't even pay it any mind, right? No big deal. It's just there. It doesn't define who I am as a person. But if I had personal existence for you, I'd be embarrassed. I'd be trying to hide it, right? I'd put a jacket over top of it so people can't see it. And now maybe I'm sweating with this jacket because it's too hot and I'm wearing this jacket. But you can get liberated from all of that and you can be free and just understand like, yeah, this doesn't define who I am as a person, and just walk through the airport with no problem, right? So this is something you might not see today, and that's okay. There's more time for you to learn about this another day. Sometimes I spend an hour to an hour and a half just talking about that in certain programs that I teach. Okay. Yeah, if you could turn that off so we don't get feedback through the speakers, that'd be good. All right, one more little building block, and then I'll teach you the Four Noble Truths. So here, this is craving, desire, attachment, expectations, wants, holding, grasping, clinging. We define this as the mind longing, yearning for something. The mind is pulling towards the direction of the objects of its affection. The mind thinks the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide lasting satisfaction. It's like an unquenchable thirst that the mind has. It chases and chases and chases and chases. If you've ever been in the mall and you saw a brand new pair of shoes or a new phone or a computer or a video game or jewelry, and you're like, oh, I just gotta have that. The craving, desire, attachment isn't the object. It's the way that the mind is longing, yearning for it. Do you guys know what I'm talking about here? Maybe you were sitting somewhere and you're like, what do I need to be happy here? More money. That'll fix everything. Let me get some more money. And now your mind chases after that for a while. And then you get your money and you might be happy, but then it kind of fades away. And then you're like, what do I need to be happy here? Oh, a new boyfriend, a new girlfriend. That'll fix everything. Let me get one of those. And now you chase after that for a while. And you'll be happy if you get that, but then eventually you'll get angry or frustrated with them, right? And then you're like, what do I need to be happy? I know what I'll do. I'll go to Thailand. That'll fix everything. Let me go to Thailand. And now you get so excited to go to Thailand. But then when you have to go home, it's like, oh, I don't want to go home. Thailand has mango and sticky rice and massages, and I don't want to go back home, right? So your mind is longing, yearning, thinking something external is going to provide lasting satisfaction. So the mind chases it and chases it. You guys know what I'm talking about here? Okay. All right. So now we've got everything we need to talk about the Four Noble Truths. The first noble truth is explaining the problem in the mind. The problem is that everyone that is unenlightened will experience discontentedness. So those discontent feelings that you have in the mind, the pleasant, painful, neither painful nor pleasant, that's the problem. That the mind is shaken up. It's unsteady. It's uncalm. The anger, the frustration, the agitation, the annoyance, the stress, the anxiety, the guilt, the shame, the fear, that's the problem that you're experiencing, the conditioned feelings. Because when your mind is having those feelings, it's all shaken up. You can't make wise decisions there. So that's the problem that everyone's experiencing. The second noble truth is explaining the cause of this. Discontentedness is caused by our own cravings, desires, attachments, because the mind wants everything to be permanent when everything in the world is impermanent. I'm going to say that a few times, and I'm going to give you some examples. The discontentedness, the pleasant feelings, painful feelings, neither painful nor pleasant, is caused by craving, desire, attachment. The mind longing, yearning, chasing after the objects of your affection, wanting things to be permanent, when in reality, everything around you is impermanent. Okay? So think back to the boyfriend or girlfriend that you got together with. When you guys first got together, you were happy, you were excited. This person was showing you affection. They were calling you and sending you text messages, inviting you to the movies and dinner. You're going to the park, having nice walks around the park. You're having great conversations. Everything was wonderful. You're even having intimate contact. You're having sex, right? And now you're having all these pleasant feelings, right? But then over time, the relationship deteriorated. And now you were angry or frustrated, and you guys broke up. And now you might even been really angry and really frustrated, or you might have been lonely or bored, or you might have been missing this person. This wasn't your love that was causing this. This was the mind holding on and craving permanence. As long as the mind gets what it wants, when its cravings are getting fulfilled, it gets pleasant feelings. But when you're not getting what you want, the mind experiences painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. So the mind could only be happy when the mind's getting what it wanted. And this relationship is impermanent. It was always impermanent, right from the very beginning. But the mind didn't have that wisdom. It was holding on and craving permanence. So you could only be happy when you were together. And then when you guys broke up, the mind was angry or frustrated. You can see this if you've had someone close to you that has died, like mom or dad, grandma or grandpa, brothers or sisters. You're not a bad person if you grieved or you had sorrow or sadness. It's just that the mind's holding on and craving permanence. As long as grandma and grandpa's alive, your mind's getting what you want. That's why there's happiness there. But then when you're not getting what you want, when they're pass away, the mind's not getting what it wants, which is this permanence. And now it experiences anger, sadness, or frustration, or grief, or sorrow, right? So one way to say this is that the mind craves permanence. Another way to say it is that the mind does not like impermanence. It doesn't like change. When things are changing in your life, that's where your mind struggles the most. You can look at your own life and you can see that when you were changing living locations, when you were changing jobs, when you were changing relationships, those were the biggest challenges for you in life during those periods of time. Even though it was you making those decisions to produce those types of things, you still didn't like it. Your mind was shaken up during those periods of time. Let me give you an example that doesn't involve relationships. Maybe you can see this a little bit closer, a little bit clearer. Think if you bought a brand new car. Maybe you were saving for 10 years to buy your dream car. You were putting money under the mattress of your bed, and you were saving up this money for 10 years. And now you finally got all this money. And you go down to the car dealership and you give them their money and you get the keys to your car and you drive that car off the parking lot. And now you're so happy. You're so excited. You got your dream car after 10 years. And now you park it at a store and you go inside and you come out and there's a scratch on your car. Oh my gosh. You might be so frustrated or angry. It's not the scratch that's causing that. And it's not the person who scratched your car. What's causing the anger and frustration is the mind's craving permanence. The mind wants this car to be permanently beautiful, when that's not possible. We're not talking about what's wise or unwise here, because when we walk through a parking lot, of course, we aspire not to scratch anybody's car. But the fact is that this car is going to get scratched. It's only a matter of time, right? The paint's going to fade. The tires are going to need to be changed. The upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. It's only a matter of time before these things occur. If your mind craves permanence, when you're experiencing impermanence with your car, your mind won't like it, right? It'll get frustrated or angry or some other discontent feeling. So you need to be able to see that your mind is craving permanence. That's the cause of your painful feelings, is that the mind's craving permanence while you live in an impermanent world, right? So this is a little bit of the intellectual learning here. Don't believe me. Don't believe anything I ever say. Independently verify it for yourself. So take a moment here and think about a recent time where you've been angry or sad or frustrated. It could have been this morning or yesterday or last week. Look at that situation with these fresh eyes. What was it that your mind was longing, yearning for? And if you would have gotten it, you would have been happy. But because you didn't get what you wanted, you were angry or sad or frustrated. Now, at that time, you might have been trying to blame somebody else, because that's what the mind usually does, is it looks for someone else to blame. But now it's not about blame or fault. It's just about seeing true reality. What was it that your mind was craving? What were you wanting? What were you expecting? And if you would have gotten it, you would have been happy. But because you didn't get it, you were angry or frustrated. If you can see this, you can have a breakthrough to being able to see how it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. But if you can't see it, let me know and I will help you. I've had plenty of people over the years that needed help with this. I had one student that actually called me one time. They contacted me. They said, "Hey, David, I need to talk to you." I said, "Sure, what's going on?" They said, "I know that you teach that it's my own mind that's causing these feelings, but I'm sure it's my wife. I need to talk to you." And I said, "Okay, sure. What would you like to talk about?" They said, "Well, I went to work the other day and my house looked beautiful. And when I came home, she had this craft project all over the house. And I got frustrated when I walked in. How did my mind cause this? She's the one who messed up the house. Didn't she cause me to be angry or frustrated?" And I said, "No, that's not what caused it. Your mind was craving permanence. You went to work with the expectation that your house was going to look exactly the same when you came home. The only thing that's happened is change. That's all that happened. And now your mind doesn't like that. You're craving permanence. And your house can't look that way permanently. So when it goes from sun to rain and someone's frustrated, all that's happened is change. When your bank account balance goes from here to here and you're frustrated or angry, all that's happened is change. That's all that's happening, right? But your mind's craving permanence. It doesn't like that change. So you need to be able to see this for yourself through your own examples, because then you can have a breakthrough. Because when you're experiencing that anger and you think that it's somebody else that's causing it, that's where you'll become unskillful. You'll push people away. You might have pushed away friends or family, or you might have pushed away a certain situation, or you'll be bitter and harsh and hostile to people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, and you'll damage your relationships, or you'll put your expectations on people and try to pressure them or control them to do things your way. Now, I'm sure you've been in knockdown, drag-out fights trying to convince people that they have to stop doing what they're doing, or else you're going to continue to get angry. I'm sure that you've done that, right? But they weren't the ones who were causing you to be angry. Ever since the beginning of our life, we've been experiencing this same thing. If you can think back to when we were children, we went to our parents and we said, "Mommy and Daddy, can I have chocolate and ice cream?" And they said, "Sure, here's your chocolate and ice cream." And we're like, "Thank you so much, Mommy and Daddy. You're the best Mommy and Daddy ever. We were so happy. We got our chocolate and ice cream." And then the second day came around and they said, "Mommy and Daddy, can I have chocolate and ice cream?" "Sure, little David, here's your chocolate and ice cream." "Thank you so much. You're the best Mommy and Daddy ever." But then the third day came around and I said, "Mom and Dad, can I have chocolate and ice cream?" "Nope, you can't have chocolate and ice cream." You're the worst Mommy and Daddy ever, right? As long as the mind's getting what it wants, it's happy. But when you don't get what you want, what you're craving, what you're longing, yearning for, your mind's going to be angry or frustrated. The mind was craving for that chocolate and ice cream to be permanent. We wanted every single day. We wanted chocolate and ice cream. If we could have chocolate and ice cream 2 or 3 times a day, that was a wonderful day, right? So the mind is craving permanence. But slowly but surely, we eliminated this craving, desire, attachment to chocolate and ice cream. And that's where our peace and our joy came in. Where if we had chocolate and ice cream, we were fine. And if we didn't have chocolate and ice cream, we were fine with that too. That's where the third noble truth comes in. Because if you can understand the cause of your discontentedness is craving, desire, attachment, and your own mind is causing it, that's where the third noble truth is empowering you and helping you to see that you can eliminate it. Because if you're the one who's causing this discontentedness, you can eliminate it. Whereas if it was everybody else who was causing you to be angry or frustrated, you can't eliminate it because you can't control other people to do things your way. It's impossible. So the third noble truth is the elimination of discontentedness is possible by eliminating cravings, desires, attachments. When you eliminate that longing, yearning, and that chasing after things, and you can only be happy if you get what you want, you can eliminate your discontentedness. But sometimes when I say that, people say, well, if I'm not doing that, if I'm not chasing after things, wouldn't I swing all the way to the other side where I'm dull and lethargic and kind of complacent and lazy? Well, you might, but that's not what the Buddha is teaching you. The Buddha is teaching you to come to the middle, where you can gradually pursue your goals, objectives, or interests through wise decisions. So you can eliminate your discontentedness by eliminating the craving for permanence and basing your feelings on things. You can verify this too. Think back to the boyfriend or girlfriend that you were with. And when you guys first got together, remember you were happy and excited. But when you guys broke up, you were angry or frustrated. But at some point your mind was like, you know what? If he wants to be with someone else, so be it. And you let go. And that's where your peace and joy came back. Or you're like, you know what? If she wants to move to another part of the world, she doesn't want to live near me. Okay, so be it. And you let go. And when your mind let go, that's where your peace and your joy came back. So that's what the third noble truth is helping you to see, is that you can eliminate your discontentedness. You need to train your mind to let go. But the mind doesn't know how to do that. And that's where the fourth noble truth comes in. The path to eliminating discontentedness is the Eightfold Path. This is the complete, perfect plan that's going to guide you in how to train your mind to completely eliminate all your discontentedness. And it starts with right view. Having right view is to understand that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. Wrong view would be to blame other people. When you're blaming other people for the feelings that you're experiencing, that's wrong view. That your mind's not understanding that it's your own cravings, desires, attachments that's producing this. So once you independently verify that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, what I encourage you to do now and forever is whenever you're angry, whenever you're frustrated, irritated, annoyed, any of these discontent feelings, instead of looking external for what is causing it, because that's not what's causing it, look inward. What are you longing for? What are you craving? What are you wanting? What are you expecting? Right? So if you go to the airport and you're so excited to go on this trip and you just can't wait to get there, and they inform you at the ticket counter, sorry, sir, sorry, ma'am, your flight is delayed. You're going to need to wait 3 hours. And you notice that your anger is arising. It's not the airline company that's causing that. That's your craving for permanence. I want every airplane to take off on time, right? Especially the ones you're on, right? Everybody else's plane can be late. You don't mind about that, but you want your plane to take off on time. That's the craving for permanence. And now someone will sit in the waiting room and they'll sit there and be frustrated for 3 hours, angry and irritated. All the way on the airplane to the next city, they'll be angry and frustrated the whole way. Where you're never going to be in a world where every single plane takes off on time. It's just not possible. There's going to be a maintenance issue, a crew issue. There's going to be a weather issue. It's going to happen. It's only a matter of time because of impermanence. But your mind in the unenlightened state craves permanence. So you need to be able to practice right view where you can see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. Because once you understand that it's your own mind causing these feelings, now you can apply the solution and actually fix it. But if you don't understand what's causing it, you'll never actually be able to fix it. So that's why the Buddha starts you off with right view, understanding that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. But then you're going to need to know all these other steps, which is what I'm going to teach this week coming up, so that you can understand how to completely transform the mind. That's what you need to be able to implement in your day-to-day life. Just like you learned how to clean this body, and you know that that's an important thing to do every day, there's a certain wisdom that you need of how to clean the mind. And if you haven't learned how to clean the mind, well, of course you feel stress. Of course you have anxiety. If you walked around and you didn't clean this body for several days, weeks, months, or years, you'd be very uncomfortable walking around in this body. Well, the same thing's true about this mind. If you're not cleaning the mind, of course you feel uncomfortable in certain situations because you just never learned the wisdom of how to clean the mind. But now you're in a place that actually understands how to clean the mind. And now you can understand that through this Eightfold Path. So do you guys have questions on the Four Noble Truths? Because this is everything I have to share with you guys for this particular course.
Hey, David, thank you for the lecture. It was awesome so far. I was just wondering that should we have desire of our life? Like, we want something. Should we have that?
Okay, so once you understand what a desire is, which is a longing and yearning, chasing after the objects of your affection, forming your feelings on whether you get that thing or not, you're not interested in that, right? But you're also not interested in being on the other side, where you're dull and lethargic and you could care less about what's going on in your life. Neither of those two things are going to produce peace and joy. you can come to the middle where you have certain goals, certain objectives, certain interests that you're working towards, and you gradually make wise decisions towards accomplishing those things. If you have a goal and you accomplish it and you're happy, and if you don't accomplish it, you're sad or frustrated, that's not a goal. That's a craving, desire, attachment. That's the mind having wants and expectations and forming its feelings on whether you get something. So that's not a goal. That's a craving, desire, attachment masquerading as a goal. A true goal is something you can gradually work towards, making wise decisions. And if you accomplish it, great, that's wonderful. And if you don't accomplish it, you can still maintain your joy and maintain your peace. I'll give you guys another example from this trip that I just took to the US. When I went to the US, they asked me to teach all these classes, and they said, we'd like you to live stream your classes. And I said, okay, cool. I'll bring my camera. I'll bring equipment. We can live stream the classes. So I brought all this stuff to America. And when we showed up to some of these places, I wasn't able to live stream. I went there with the goal to live stream, and I had all the equipment. But when we got there, it just wasn't working out. And I said, hey, we can't live stream. I'm just going to teach the class. And they were like, okay, that's fine. And they were like, you sure? I was like, yes, I'm sure. So I could maintain my peace and maintain my joy. I had a goal to live stream, but my feelings weren't based on it, right? So that's what you would like to do, is gradually pursue your goals, objectives, or interests, but don't base your feelings on whether you accomplish it. So let's just say you're 80% of the way to your goal. You can say, well, I can give myself more time to be able to accomplish this, or I can add resources to be able to help me accomplish this. Or you know what? I'm just fine with the 80%. I don't need to go any further. And now you can maintain your peace and joy. But if you have a craving, desire, attachment, if you have a want or expectation, you can't do that. You can only be happy if you get what you want. And that's sabotaging your ability to be permanently happy and permanently peaceful, because the universal truth of impermanence tells you that you're not always going to get what you want. It's not possible. So that's why you just gradually work towards goals, objectives, or interests through wise decision making, and you train your mind to not form your feelings based on this. So I can sit here and explain it to you, and intellectually you guys might understand it, but it's a whole nother thing to do it in your day-to-day life. And that's where the Eightfold Path is going to teach you and train your mind to be able to do what it is that I'm describing.
Yeah, understand. Thank you very much. And also, based on your answer, I also have another question. Where the happiness come from? For example, I set a goal. I never will feel sad if I eliminate all these feelings and I never reached my goal. I'm never gonna be happy. If I always be peaceful, there's no sadness, there's no loneliness, there's no upset, but I also may not feel happy as well. So I think sometimes the desire give our body the energy to, okay, I will not sleep tonight. I will work hard this week. I will do everything self-discipline to reach this goal. If I don't have strong desire attachment to whatever, then I will think, okay, that's fine, take my time, I do 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and I just give up myself all the time, and then forgive myself all the time, then I will never reach the goal. I feel peaceful, but I may not feel happy because I never reached the goal, if that happened.
Okay, so what you're describing now is the unenlightened mind, that the unenlightened mind will chase based in craving, desire, attachment. And as long as you have that craving, desire, attachment, you will chase and chase and chase and chase and chase, and you'll exhaust yourself. You'll burn yourself out, and you'll feel completely withdrawn in some cases, right? You'll push yourself to the ends of the earth trying to get those pleasant feelings based on fulfilling your cravings. But now you're completely exhausted, right? And you made a whole bunch of unwise decisions along the way, right? That's not what the Buddha is teaching you. He's teaching you this better way of life where you can gradually pursue your goals, objectives, or interests. Because if you can only be motivated when you have this craving, that means when the craving burns out, you won't be motivated anymore, right? So that's why you had certain hobbies that you were really eager to pursue when you first got into it, and you pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. 6 months, a year, 3 years down the road, you're like, I don't want to play violin anymore. I don't feel like playing piano. I just don't want to do it, right? The mind burns out, right? Or some job or occupation. You were very excited about it at the beginning, but then 6 months or 3 years down the road, you don't want to do it anymore because your mind right now is chasing, right? It's like a dog chasing a rabbit, and then it catches the rabbit and kills it, and then it doesn't even eat it. It's just bored with the rabbit, right? So the Buddha is teaching you to not do that. He's teaching you how to come to the middle and make wise decisions towards your goals, objectives, or interests. Then you can actually be happy all the time, because with conditional happiness, you can only be happy when you get what you want. If my mom and dad do this, if my boss does this, if the weather is this, if my bank account is this, if I have this kind of house and this kind of car, then I will be happy. So that means the more conditions that you have, that means your happiness is shrinking. You can only be happy when those things are met. What the Buddha is teaching you to do is get to unconditional happiness, where there doesn't need to be any condition met in order for there to be happiness in the mind. So where the happiness is coming from, because that's the beginning of your question, is what's the source of the happiness? The happiness is coming from getting rid of the pollution out of the mind. While we talk about it as attaining enlightenment, one of the ways to think about it is that the mind's already enlightened, but you have these pollutions in your way that are hindering you from being able to experience the qualities of enlightenment. It's kind of like if there's the sun and there's clouds in front of the sun. When you peel away the clouds, the rays of the sun are slowly starting to shine through more and more and more. The only difference here is that when you get rid of the clouds are eventually going to come back and block the sun again. But the difference is with the enlightened mental state, when you get the pollutions out of the mind, they will never come back ever again. So that's where the happiness is coming from, because when your mind is polluted, you can't be happy permanently. But when you get rid of these pollutions, your mind can always be cheerful, bright, glad, and uplifted. And instead of chasing after pleasant feelings and making a bunch of mistakes and utterly exhausting yourself, you can just gradually work towards goals, objectives, or interests so you can get a good night's sleep every single night. Why do you have to exhaust yourself and stay up all night long studying or working on that project? Why not just pace yourself and do little by little each day? And then by the time you get to the point where you're done, you can be like, wow, I'm finished. This is wonderful. Now I've got this new project or this new product that I just created, right? The Buddha had the biggest, most ambitious goal that I can imagine. 2,500 years ago, his goal was for his teachings to reach the entire world. That's a huge goal 2,500 years ago. Travel was not very easy during that period of time. The language that he spoke wasn't accessible to the entire world. There were so many different languages in the world, and we didn't have things like the internet to be able to send books and resources all over the world. Now here we are 2,500 years later, finally realizing the goal that the Buddha had, which is for his teachings to reach the entire world. But he was working towards a goal that he was never going to accomplish during his life, right? And he can maintain his joy, he can maintain his happiness, and gradually make wise decisions towards that goal. So you need to be able to get to the point where you're willing to have a goal, and you can gradually work towards that. And now you can maintain your peace and your joy regardless. Now you're just, mind's going up and down, exhausting yourself and getting to the point where you're staying up all night, it sounds like, and working really hard. You don't have to do that. You can just work gradually, slowly but surely each day, and have a wonderful night's sleep every single night and be joyful and peaceful all day long, right? So it's this better way of life that the Buddha teaches you how to do that. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, let me see if we have any questions online here. All right, I don't see any questions. Somebody says, you are love. You are loved. All right. All right, I don't see any questions anywhere. So, oh, you have a question? Yes, ma'am.
I can understand that the emotion maybe no use for our uh, uh, wisdom, but I want to ask if we stay in in an unhealthy family, we have unhealthy members, and we just cannot just live away, get away. We must. I mean, we are family. There are members that they maybe have a greater expectation of you.
Yeah.
So how we treat their
Okay.
they do many things.
Sure.
Yeah.
So just because you were born into a certain family doesn't mean you have to spend time with those people, right? You can choose to not spend time with those people. That's a choice for you to make. But just understand that if you experience anger and frustration, choosing to not spend time with them isn't going to solve your anger and frustration, because it's not them that are causing you to be angry and frustrated. If you have family members that are putting expectations on you and trying to pressure you to do things their way, that's because they don't understand the Four Noble Truths. They think the way to get to happiness is to get you to do things their way. They're trying to pressure you and control you to do things their way. They don't understand the Four Noble Truths. So what you need to do is make sure for yourself that you understand the Four Noble Truths. You can't control those people. Those people might try to put expectations on you, but you can control your own mind. You can train your mind to not adopt those expectations from your family members of yourself, because just because your family's putting expectations on you doesn't mean you need to follow those expectations. You can choose to do things your own way. But when you have craving, desire, attachment with your family, you're going to impose on yourself these expectations that your family is putting on you. So I'll give you an example, because this happened to me, and I learned this very early in life. When I was about 17, I was spending a lot of time with my guy friends, and my family came to me and they said, David, you're spending a lot of time with your guy friends. And I said, yeah, we're hanging out. We're having a good time. They're like, we think you should have a girlfriend. You're spending too much time with your guy friends. So I thought about it for a couple of months. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to go get a girlfriend. So I went and got a girlfriend, and I started spending time with her. And my family came to me after that, and they said, David, you're spending too much time with your girlfriend. You should be spending time with us. I'm like, man, you can't make these people happy, right? No matter what you choose to do, they're going to try to put expectations on you. Initially, I adopted their expectations in my mind, and I went and got a girlfriend. But when I realized what was going on, I said, no, I'm not going to do this. I didn't necessarily tell them. Ultimately, I did end up saying it to them. But in my own mind, I knew that I wasn't going to adopt their expectations in my own mind. I just decided to do things my way, because I'm living my life and I need to create the type of life that I would like for myself. They're living their life and they get to create the life that they like to live. But your family thinks that the way that they're going to get to happiness is to get you to do things their way. So you just need to train your mind that when you hear those things, to not adopt them into your own mind as what you expect of yourself. So I actually went to my family at one time and I told them my goal in life is not to meet their expectations. That's not my goal. But I imagine you're from a Chinese culture, Chinese family, Chinese parents and other parents too, from India, from America, from different places. They will tend to put their expectations on their children and try to force their children to do things a certain way. And you need to be able to understand that that's their expectations. They're trying to get their cravings fulfilled. And they think if they can just get you to do things their way, they're going to get happy. But the thing is whatever their expectations are, if you work really, 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 really hard to get to that point, they're going to get happy for a period of time. But then you know what they're going to do? They're going to change their expectations. And then you're going to have to work really, 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 really hard to get to those expectations. They'll be happy for a couple of weeks, and then they're going to change their expectations again, right? So you're never going to create peace and joy in your relationships by trying to meet other people's expectations. It's like feeding a monster. The more you feed this monster, the bigger it gets. So if you keep trying to meet other people's expectations, they're just going to keep putting expectations on you more and more and more. So you need to make a switch in your mind that when you hear what people say, you just understand that's their expectations and you're going to do what you think is best for your life and be free of those expectations. Other people will still try to put their expectations on you, but that doesn't mean you have to adopt those in your mind as expectations for yourself. You can just be free of that and now just gradually work towards your goals, objectives, and interests. So it's easy to say and you can intellectually understand, but it's a whole nother thing to do it. That's why you need the Eightfold Path, right? You need to train your mind this way. Okay. So I'll just end with this last thought here. Is something that I said earlier in the course is what the teachings of the Buddha are is to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. That's what his teachings are. But what's hurting you is inside your own mind. It's your craving, desire, attachment. It's your longing, yearning. And you can only be happy if you get things the way you want, right? But what you'd like to do is learn how to get rid of that, where you can learn that the world is impermanent, it's constantly changing, and people are going to do things different ways. And that's okay. They're free to do things their way, right? But when you get angry that other people aren't doing it your way, that's your craving, desire, attachment. So your mind needs to get this training, but you need to understand what's causing the pain. To be able to heal from what hurt you, you need to understand the cause of the pain. So you can get to the point where you don't experience painful feelings anymore. So like I shared, I suggest you start with this first book. There's a course next week that I'm going to be sharing. If you're here tomorrow, I'm going to be sharing a class, just a short little class for an hour and a half tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Just on meditation. I'm going to be teaching meditation inside and out, backwards and forwards. Tomorrow night, I'm going to be doing meditation with students at 6:30 at night. We're going to be doing meditation here. It syncs up with the Sunday night walking market. And then tomorrow at 9 p.m., I'm going to be teaching here. There's a whole host of classes and opportunities for you guys to learn either here or online. So if you guys would like to learn how to heal from what hurt you, I'll help you to be able to do that. And everything's available to you at no cost. There's never a time where anyone's going to ask you for any money or anything like that. So if you guys would like to learn how to create this transformation in your life, there's help for you to do that. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you for your interest to learn. And perhaps I'll see you guys in a future class. Okay? Be well and take care. You're welcome. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.